Well, hello, free people of the Rocky Mountain region, and welcome to this Free State Colorado interview. Today, I'm joined by Jon Caldara, the president of the Independence Institute, a free market and pro liberty think tank in the heart of Denver. Well, Jon, I hope you are well, and thank you for joining me today.
I always enjoy this. Thanks.
Well, Jon, I wanted to ask you about a controversial opinion that you have. You wrote about it in a recent article, and it's interesting because you have kind of a different opinion than a lot of the more conservative and kind of liberty crowd. So for people who don't know, the parent company of Nine News is being bought out by a rival company. And this could mean that we might lose Nine News in Colorado. So, Jon, even though most conservatives and libertarians were celebrating this news, you had a different and nuanced take on this. Can you explain to viewers your thoughts?
Well, first of all, it's not like I'm a huge Nine News fan. They're part of the more left-leaning media. And by the way, I've been around media for, oh, good God, 30 years now. And I find reporters and journalists to be some of the most fascinating, funny, smart, enjoyable people. I really enjoy them as friends. Uh, One of the things, though, they don't get that there's a group think among them, that they all share the oppressed slash oppressor viewpoint, and therefore it comes out in the reporting. And when I say, your stuff is biased, it's kind of like telling your drunk uncle that he's got an alcohol problem. It's like, no, you've got a problem. And it always goes the same way. And so it's no different at Nine News, and I get that. Nine News isn't going to go away, but if I think it's called Tegna, is the company that owns Channel 9 and Channel 20, and they're going to be gobbled up by something called Nexstar, which of course all the reporters call Death Star. And that company already owns Channel 2 and Channel 31. We're looking at a situation where four stations will be owned by one company. I've lived through this in the world of radio. People like you who watch YouTube don't understand. Way back in the before time, we had talk radio, and it was incredible. We had local voices like Mike Rosen and Pete Boyles. You had all sorts of different stations. They would talk about different things, and those local talk show hosts were complete, wonderful balances to the newspapers and to TV. They were a force. It used to be that the FCC would let a company own one AM and one FM station. So that's all they could have. And then in 1996, a Telecommunications Act was passed, and the FCC can give you up to eight stations. So all of a sudden, they started buying up stations, and these companies went into debt. It was Jacor, and then Clear Channel, and then iHeart, and everybody else was just gobbling up stations, going broke. Their thought was, you know what? We can make a conglomeration. Why have eight stations with eight separate newsrooms, or eight traffic departments, or eight talk show hosts, when we can have one newsroom all doing the same thing, and they just spit out the stories to all eight stations. They'll put a different tag on it. They'll say this is 1035 The Fox, and then they'll go, "Welcome to 850 KOA. Here's the news." But it's the same guy saying the same news in all these different places. You could always tell when it's out of state during the traffic reports, when they mispronounce Louisville. Say, well, there's a pile up on US 36 near Louisville. It's like, oh, you're not from here. Because they're not from here, they're actually, in some other state, and they just flip a switch and they do it for one station, flip a switch, do it for the next station, and they read it off a computer. So I wonder, when Channel 9 gets gobbled up, is that really going to be a great thing for us? Or is it going to be what we learned in radio? It was the death of radio in this city. And I worry that that news might be the next thing on television that gets conglomerated and weakened. And I just don't see how that helps my point of view ever getting out.
That's a great point. I really appreciate the perspective there. And I can totally sympathize with listening to the radio and, it's an iHeartRadio media station. Then you flip it over because it's a commercial. And then they're like, it's the same commercial. It's the iHeartMedia radio commercial. And it's like, yeah, there's no diversity. There's no local opinions or local ideas. And they're playing the same playlist that some studio person designed out in New York or Chicago or something like that. So I totally understand. But I have to think, John, that it's kind of inevitable with the way technology is going. You brought up YouTube, there's the podcasting, there's a new world. And I think, especially with a lot of young people, they're not really watching cable news or TV news as much. So I think it's just a matter of time before we do see this consolidation, or at worst, these companies going out of business on their own because they don't have that viewership, just like we saw with like the Rocky Mountain News, for example, leaving only really the Denver Post as the print newspaper in the Denver metro area. So I sympathize and I totally agree, but it seems, it's just going to be a matter of time before we see some sort of consolidation. And hey, if one of them's got to go, let's let it be Nine News.
Well, let's remember there's speculation on the street that Free State, Colorado might be their next acquisition. So, and then you're gone and you're going to be replaced by Kyle Clark, and that's going to be that. Let me say, actually, let's talk about Kyle Clark for a second. Uh, Kyle is not a favorite of conservatives, but on those occasions when he challenges the Democratic one-party rule here, when he challenges the governor, it's a game changer. Case in point, Prop HH, when he said, come on, governor, you're very smart. I hope you don't think we voters are stupid. Once he said that and explained that what they're trying to do with that property with HH was a scam, it died. It died. He did it also when he talked about the rebates that the governor was doing by pulling him from one pocket and then giving him over here someplace else. We got that. He took on that bridge to nowhere, that the vanity bridge that Polis wanted to put out in front of the Capitol. And as soon as he did, the thing was dead. We knew it was dead. So he's a remarkably powerful voice. And yeah, what I wish he would see things from a free market point of view, from a liberty versus coercion perspective, instead of the oppressed versus the oppressor perspective. Yes, of course. But on occasion, when he does the arithmetic and it comes out, it's a worthwhile thing. So what happens to Kyle Clark? What happens to his show Next? And Next is one of the few shows that is largely local. And while I don't like the sway it gives, it is good to have more eyes on local issues. If that goes away, I don't think we're better off, even though the show can drive you nuts. I don't see how we're better off. I say that as a guy who's fighting for a smaller government. You mentioned when the newspapers went, it was terrible for me. It was terrible for Independence Institute. We had such competition before between the Post and the Rocky Mountain News. I could offer one an exclusive. I could do something. They would both cover it. There was this competition between the two of them. They had like 500 reporters. And once it went, yeah, it was sad. It will be satisfying when the Denver Post goes. It really will be. But is it better for us? No, I don't see how. You're right. It's being replaced by things like what you do. Even when Kyle Clark's news goes out on Facebook and YouTube and all sorts of other places, and I think that's where he gets a lot of his viewership. I think of Complete Colorado and other great things that go out there. There are new alternatives. The work that Corey Gaines does is just spectacular as well. So you've got these news outlets that are bubbling up from the bottom, and that's exciting. I just worry that when you have one conglomeration owning half the news in the town, it's just never good.
Well, I completely understand, and I always appreciate your perspective. It's always a great time talking to you. And speaking of having a great time, I know the Independence Institute is hosting their annual ATF party here coming up. And now, John, I've told so many people what a great time it is, but so many of my friends hate the ATF. So what do they need to know about this great event, and why should they go?
Because alcohol, tobacco, and firearms are not restricted. They're celebrated at the ATF party. We've been doing this for, oh my God, over 20 something years now. And we started it off as a lark. It was like, what can we do to piss off the nannyists? Let's smoke, drink, and shoot guns. And so we went off and did it. And it was a blast. And I remember sometimes reporters come and they see everybody with their shotguns and they go, what do we do? It's like, it's okay. It's okay. Have a cigar. You're going to be okay. And we've had great speakers over the years, from Christopher Hitchens to Grover Norquist. This year we've got John Fund coming out to join us for lunch and talk, and he's just spectacular. The idea is to enjoy the perks of adulthood before the nanny state takes them away. It's also a great fundraiser for Independence Institute. It helps us make ends meet. It helps pay for the Scotch habit that I have. That's important. It's just a terrific time. And I know registration's closing up real soon here. So if people want to do it, please go to thinkfreedom.org, thinkfreedom.org, and click on the icon for our alcohol, tobacco, and firearms party. You get this t-shirt that says alcohol, tobacco, and firearms party. And there's nothing better than going shopping at Whole Foods wearing that t-shirt.
I can't recommend it enough. It's a blast, literally and figuratively. I've been before, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a great time. I mean, it's so fun being around other pro-liberty people, being able to share a cigar, drink some alcohol, and talk, and just have great conversations, especially after you've been shooting guns that morning. I mean, it's
And
definitely one of the
for those people who haven't shot a shotgun, it's a shotgun course. And what that means is you're shooting clay pigeons. We try to get real pigeons, but they won't get out of downtown Denver. So we shoot clay pigeons, and you keep score, and it's like a golf course. It's really very well done. If you've never shot a shotgun, they have something called the five stand. Why do they call it the five stand? I think it's got five stations. And you can practice up and give it a try. And we have instructors there to help you actually break some of those pigeons, which makes it a lot more fun. It's just it's a terrific, terrific time. And more importantly, especially now that the new gun laws are going to come into place next year, your semi-automatic shotgun with a detachable magazine, you might not be able to buy it next year without having to ask for a permission slip from your sheriff, who knows if he'll say yes. There's no reason he has to say yes. It's not shall issue. And with that, you get to go take a 2-day training course from the state or a state approved instructor just to be able to buy a semi-automatic gun. It's insane. We have leapfrogged California as it comes to the Second Amendment. And so we want to protect that. We want to celebrate it, and we want to get like-minded people together to say, you're not alone.
so important to do. It's one of the biggest pro-liberty events of the year, so I really encourage people to attend. I'll definitely have a link to it. But yeah, really appreciate your time, John. Thank you for everything you do in the Independence Institute. If people aren't reading Complete Colorado every day, they're definitely missing out on what's going on in our state. But
It's a
really
great
appreciate you
news
taking it.
source without a paywall, local news and views. It's a one-stop shop. And also, let me just say, Free State Colorado has become such a valuable weapon for liberty here in Colorado. I know it's a lot of work for you, especially as you're out there running for office and doing other things. But thanks for doing it. You're an incredible voice for liberty.
I will appreciate that, sir. I got my Vern Bickle Award right here on every
Ah,
video
there it is.
every video I do now. So I'm extremely honored, and we'll keep up the fight. We're not going. I'm not going anywhere. I know you're not going anywhere. We're going to keep fighting, and Colorado will be free one day. But we need people to show up at events like the ATF Party, support great organizations like the Independence Institute, and hey, run for local office. So, with that, John, I really appreciate your time, and hope to talk to you again soon.
Look forward to it. Take care, Brandon.
Take care.